This is a Fletcher Free Library original production. Hey friends, it's Kate from the Fletcher Free Library. I'm back. And today we're going to be starting some seeds because it's spring and it's getting warmer. So I will take you through some seed starting and what seeds need. We'll plant some and hopefully you will do this at home as well and show me some photos of all your gardening adventures. So I'm going to show you some slides about supplies and I'll gather mine together and then we'll get started. To get started, you'll need a container to hold your seeds, some seeds of your choice, some kind of potting soil or container mix, maybe a spoon for scooping, and a cup of water for watering your newly planted seeds. So I'm all set and hopefully you're all set to start, but I want to talk about seeds a little bit first so you know what's going on underground. And first I want to thank my friend Julia because she gave me some seeds, some pea seeds and some green beans and some sunflowers. I didn't have any seeds at home and I didn't have any seed starting mix. And I put out a call to my friends and she said she had some to share. So you might need to do that too. You might need to call out to some friends and have them put some goodies on their front step for you to pick up on one of your walks. So I don't expect you to go out and buy anything. Hopefully you've got some of this stuff at home. So let's go back to seeds. So seeds are pretty amazing, you know, because they have everything they need in that little package. They have all their own energy to get started, which I think is pretty amazing. And I can talk about more amazing seed stuff later. But I want you to think about, if you've ever planted seeds before, have you ever seen plants in the garden, what seeds might need to get growing? What do you think seeds need? You can think about the plants in your house, if you've ever tended them, or plants at school. I'm giving you a pause time to think about this. Okay, well let's fill it in. So seeds don't need much, that's the best part. So they need some warmth to get started, so some heat. That's why we start our seeds inside if we're doing it this early, because it's not warm enough outside yet for the seeds to get started, at least not most of them. They need air or oxygen, okay, to go through that process of breaking out of their seed pod and starting a plant. And they also need water, right? We know we water plants all the time, or the rain waters for us outside often. So 3 things, and you notice I didn't say anything about soil, because plants don't actually need soil to grow, or seeds don't need soil to start. We can start them in all kinds of ways. We can start them on a paper towel in a bag. I bet you've done that before. Or we could start them in some cotton. They just need a place, a container, something to hold on to them so their roots have a place to go. So that's something to think about. Most people think they need soil, but they don't. But we are going to use soil for the most part today. So anyway, seeds have all their own energy packed inside. And when you give them the right conditions, so some heat, some water, and a container, they will start to break out of their shell containers or their seed containers, and that's the food. The stored food is what they need for that beginning part of growing. And it's not till later when they get a stalk and some leaves that they're able to start making their own food. So really it's just what they've got, kind of like a chicken egg, right? Because there's the yellow part in a chicken egg, and that's the food for the developing chick. The seed is the food for the developing plant. It's pretty neat. So we'll move on to the next step. So let's get started. Let's start with containers. So one of the things I'm using, because I don't have any small pots saved up or put away from last year, and I'm not going to go out and shop for anything. So I'm going to use toilet paper tubes, and I'm guessing you have some of these at home. Maybe you've even been saving them up. What with the run on toilet paper in the grocery stores, everyone probably has lots of toilet paper rolls. So these are really great, and I'm going to show you how to use them. Another thing you might want to use, oh, these silly gnomes are hanging out. Boy, oh, look at a unicorn gnome. Oh. Okay, I'm going to remove the gnomes from here. They shouldn't be in my little pots. So I have some other little pots, which are just eggshells. When I used eggs for baking, I kept the shell to make a little pot. And also, where you put eggs, an egg carton makes a great little starting area, though it's pretty shallow, so it doesn't last for long because you'd have to replant your seedling pretty soon. Anyway, so I don't even have any pots, so I'm definitely going to do all my planting with toilet paper rolls. And you can see I've got one set up here. I'm going to show you how to do this. So you take your toilet paper roll, and on the bottom you cut like a clock, 12, 6, so on the top and the bottom, and then you turn it over and on 12 and 6 again. So you get four little cuts in the bottom, and then it's really simple. It's kind of like a box. You just fold them in. I'm going to fold one in, fold the second one in, fold the third one in, and fold the fourth one in. And look what it looks like. Okay, so now we have just a little container. And the nice thing about this is when you're ready to plant outside, these can go right in the ground because they get wet and the paper starts to disintegrate slowly. But by the time you put them in the ground, the roots will be already poking through, which is really cool. Okay, so I made a little pot, and so that's my container, and I've got those all ready. I put them in a plastic container to help them stay upright, and because when I start putting water in there, I can put a little water at the bottom and let it soak up through. That's another easy way to do it. Okay, so I'm gonna put that aside. You're also gonna need some soil. This is the soil I got from Julia. And here's the thing about soil. What's best for seeds is something that's really light. So going out and grabbing soil out of your yard is not the best choice because it's really heavy. Seeds need to push up, and the easier it is, the faster they'll sprout. So this is called container mix or seed starting mix, and it's really light. It'll make it easier for the seeds. So we need container mix or some kind of soil. We've got a container. I've got a variety of seeds ready, and I'll tell you a little bit about these seeds because these seeds have pretty thick seed coatings. So for things like peas and beans, I often soak them in water, and that softens the seed coat, and then they'll sprout faster. You don't have to do it, but if you do it, it might buy you 2 or 3 days that the seeds sprout up faster. And that's always pretty exciting for me because once I plant a seed, I'm very anxious to see it come out. So I also have sunflowers, and they don't need to be soaked. And in fact, sunflowers prefer just to be planted outside, but it's still too early. So I'm gonna plant mine inside and then transplant them, even though that's not their favorite way to start their life, but it is what it is. I also have some chia seeds. And we don't usually plant these, we usually eat these. But I thought it would be really fun, and you might want to do this too, is to plant them on my eggs. And when they start to sprout out, it'll look like hair, and then I can put a face on it. So I just thought that would be fun. And you can eat the chia seeds and you can eat the chia sprouts too. But once they're attached to dirt, it's a little hard to, clip them off. Anyway, I lost my clicker. I can't turn off the video. So we are ready to get started planting. Be right back. So let's do a little reminder about what the seeds need. Okay, so remember they need something to hold them. This is our container for today. They need some heat, which we're gonna get from our house, right? Because our houses are warm. They need some oxygen, which they'll be able to get because we're not gonna seal up our container. And we have to add some water to it, and we're gonna have to do that because they're inside. Have you noticed that I didn't mention sunlight? Seeds don't need sunlight because they're underground. They can't even see the sun. The sun is good for heating up the soil. And remember, seeds do need heat, but we don't need the light. So we don't care at this point where we keep the seeds. We just want it to be warm in our house where we keep them. So maybe not next to a window yet, because we want them to stay as warm as possible for the next week or so. And then we can move them to a window once they start to sprout up. Okay, so let's get started. I've got my container, and I've got my container mix, and I've got a plastic spoon, and you could spoon it in like this, which would take a while. I'm gonna actually stick my container right in the bag and scoop it up like that. I'm gonna keep going until it's all the way full, and I'm gonna fill it all the way to the top. And the reason I fill it to the top is when we add water, it's going to compress down a little, right? Because there's a lot of airspace in there. So I'm gonna fill it all the way to the top. And then I'm gonna take my pinky finger and I'm gonna make just a little hole, okay? The bigger the seed, the bigger the hole. I have pretty good sized seeds, so I'm just gonna, I'm gonna put it down less than an inch, not very far. So I don't know if you're gonna be able to see this here. Can you see? Probably not, because it's dark. Anyway, I made a little hole with my finger, and I'm going to grab some of my soaked peas, and I'm gonna stick 2 in the hole. And I stick 2 in the hole because sometimes one of them doesn't sprout, and it's kind of like insurance to make sure something comes out. Nobody likes to be disappointed when they're planting. They want something to come out. So I put 2 seeds in, I didn't push them down, and then I'm just gonna take a little sprinkle of some more soil and put it on top. Okay, so now I can't see the seed anymore. I'm just gonna pat it down gently. And I've got some water, and I'm just gonna pour a little bit of water on top, a little at a time. Ooh, it ran off. Just a little. You also, when you get them all made, you could also pour water in the bottom of your container, and it'll soak up through the bottom. Capillary action, huh? It's the same thing that happened with our walking rainbows. The paper and the soil is going to suck the water up. Capillary action, pretty cool. So I'm gonna stick this one in my container over here, and I would do this before you even put any soil or anything. I would write on the outside of your container. Let's see, I did it for some over here. This one I put an S on because I'm gonna plant sunflowers in there, and that way I know once they start growing what's coming out of my planter, right? Because that's an important thing to know before you put them outside. Okay, so this one is ready to go. I'm gonna put it in here. And I'm also going to take my little egg cup. I have one filled with soil, and I'm gonna put a little water in it. And then I'm gonna sprinkle on some chia seeds. So I make a chia head, basically. So I'm gonna put my egg in my little holder here, and then I'm gonna pour some chia seeds into my finger. Actually, I'm gonna pour them into my hand, and then I'm just gonna sprinkle them on the top. With the chia seeds, you don't even have to, bury them. They can just stay right on the top. I'm gonna sprinkle them on the top, and I'm gonna put a little water. A little more water. Okay. So I'll let you see what that looks like. Look at that. And, kind of fancy at my house, but we have these egg cups, and those are kind of fun. If you do have any egg cups at home, you could put your little egg in there while it's sprouting, and that's another way you could hold your egg. Or you could leave it inside the egg carton like that, and you could do all of them. Like you could make pancakes and then save the eggs and then plant into them. So that's using your noggin. So I'm gonna put that aside. I'm gonna put the chia aside, And I wanted to show you something else you could do. So I'll be right back, and we're gonna plant some seeds inside this bag. If you came to the library last year at this time, you might remember that we were doing some planting experiments at the library. We were planting seeds that you could take home. They were bean seeds. And I had a root view, which is a container where you can see the roots of the plants growing underground. Do you remember that, if you were at the library? As well, we had some plants just growing in a bag. And if you remember, I said you don't need soil to start a seed. So we're going to take a bag. This is just a Ziploc bag, and I put into it a paper towel, or it could be a tissue, or it could even be a napkin that is wet. And then I'm going to take a couple of my seeds. I'm going to take 4 bean seeds, and I'm going to put them inside on top of my what's it called? Oh, it is called paper towel. God, turning 50, you know, sometimes these words just don't come out. Anyway, so I'm gonna put the seeds in there, drop them right on the towel, and seal it up, and I'll show you what it looks like. It looks just like this. And you're going to be able to observe what happens as these seeds start to sprout, because the seeds that are inside our containers, we can't see what's happening underground. We can't see until they poke up. But within a couple days, you're going to see the magic. And I'm going to show you a slide after this that shows the seed germination, which is how the seed coat breaks open and little pieces of root start to come out, and they're growing down, and then the plant will start to shoot up. And if you leave it long enough, you'll actually get leaves inside here, or you could take it out and plant it in one of your containers if you want. But it's just nice to see the magic happening. At least that's my opinion. So before we finish up, let's talk about what needs to happen over the next couple weeks. So for the next week or so, you're going to keep your seeds someplace warm in the house, away from a window where it might be drafty. Remember, we don't need the sun yet. So we're going to keep them warm, and we're going to water them. So I would say you might need to water them a little bit every day, because the containers are small and a lot of it will evaporate into the air. And you might want to, like I talked about, water underneath. So put water in the bottom of your container, right on the side, and then let the container suck up the water from the bottom. You could do that, but you could also water from the top down. So keep them moist, but not too wet, because otherwise they'll get moldy. So keep them wet, keep them warm, and keep looking at them every day. You might want to make a note of what day you started so that you can see how long it took them to start sprouting. And these as well, it'll be interesting to see if the ones that you start in a plastic bag sprout faster than the ones that you start in soil. So scientists like to keep track of things. And so I would highly suggest starting a little notebook or a piece of paper that shows what's going on. And that's really all they need right now. And then over the next month or so, they're going to get to be a size that they probably need to go outside, and that's probably a good time to take them outside. So keep watering them, keep them warm. When you get a plant, that's when you can bring them over by a nice sunny window, because then they need the sun to photosynthesize and make their own food, okay? Because they used up all the food in their seed. So you're going to help them by giving them sun at that point. So I can't wait to see what you come up with. So I've shown you some options here of different ways you could start some seeds. You could use an eggshell. You could use a toilet paper container, or it could be a bigger one that you cut down. That would be fine too. You can start your seeds in a bag so that you can see all the magic happening. And I was also thinking another way that you could play with this is that you could change some of the variables to see how important they are. So for example, you might want to plant a seed in here and not give it any water. See what happens. Start all your regular seeds with water and soil in a container and some heat, and don't water this one. And make a little note or put it on its own and see what happens. Do you get a seed that sprouts? Does it just sit there? That's something you could do. Another variable you could change would be to change the heat. So you could plant your seed, water it, and then take it outside. Okay? So it's colder outside. It's, gets down in the 40s at night now, and it's 40, 50 during the day. So it's not really warm yet, not warm enough to start a garden. So take this one outside and see what happens to that one when you don't have enough heat. That's a variable you could change so that you could observe how important heat and water are to plants. It's really hard to do no oxygen because we don't really have the right materials to do that, but we can definitely play with heat and water. So that might be fun for you. But I definitely want to see what starts happening with your plants. Maybe you could take pictures of the different stages as they're happening, when it first pops up and you're really excited, and then when you get an actual stalk. I'd love to see that. And you might want to do like a movie about it and teach other people, or send it to family members who aren't with you. That might be fun. And I just want to hear all about your adventures because we miss you. This is not what we like to do. We don't want to be home doing videos. We want to be meeting up with you in the library. But in the meantime, this is how we're going to see each other. And I'm going to see you because you're going to send me pictures. So, and send me pictures of your dogs and cats and squirrels and things like that too, because that makes me happy. Have a great day.